those that don't know, my name is Dave Stamp and I work in an organisation called ASIRT, which is Asylum Support and Immigration Resource Team, and I am going to speak quite specifically about G4S and other corporations' relationship to asylum seekers. And I think
what was your organisation?
ASIRT, Asylum Support and Immigration Resource Team. Asylum seekers, I think, it can be safely said, occupy a particularly vulnerable social space. They're routinely pilloried and demonised in the media. They've got very little power, and there are very few influential figures who will speak up for them. They make ideal guinea pigs for experiments in the commodification of key state functions, the type of which we've been talking about. So I think you can say that if you want to see what a society in which corporations like G4S, Capita and Serco act as the law enforcement agencies, you can reasonably look at asylum seekers' living conditions. And I do want to talk about Jimmy Mubenga, as Gargi suggested. Jimmy Mubenga, for people who don't know, was a fit and healthy 46-year-old man from Angola. He sought asylum in the UK, and like so many other people, his claim was refused. He was scheduled to be deported to Angola on October the 12th, 2010, and the UK Border Agency had outsourced the work of removing people, as they call it, from the UK to G4S, which had been given a multi-million-pound contract, essentially to make sure that people get on aeroplanes they don't want to get on. So the G4S staff did succeed in making sure he got on that plane, but tragically he didn't get off alive. Other passengers on the plane described seeing him handcuffed with men sat on top of him screaming, "Somebody help me, don't do this, they're trying to kill me, I can't breathe, I have family, why are you doing this, no, 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 no," before he went quiet and he had died of a cardiorespiratory collapse. And I think the statement of one of the witnesses got a particular resonance to this debate. He said, "I noticed two big guys pushing something with the weight of their bodies against the seats in the last row. At that moment, I saw only the backs of these men, and I heard one voice screaming and begging for help. I realised that the voice was coming from the person which the two men were pushing down. He didn't swear, he didn't use bad language, he just continued to shout. In the beginning his voice was strong and loud, but with the time passing by the voice was losing its strength, and every time I looked back I saw the same thing, two men sitting on top of somebody. It continued for about 30 minutes until the plane started to move. I felt very disturbed by the way two men were dealing with the situation, but as I was sure they were policemen, I expected them to know what they were doing. No one's been held to account for that. There was eyewitness testimony from several people detailing the force with which Jimmy Mubenga was held down and the desperation of the pleas for help over, as that guy said, at least 30 minutes. The CPS concluded that there was insufficient evidence to prosecute either the individual guards or G4S for corporate manslaughter. So instead of being held to account for that in any way, G4S continues to enjoy a hugely lucrative contract with the contractual relationship with the UK Border Agency. It currently runs 4 immigration detention centres, including the Cedars Family Removal Centre, I think it's called, which is the coalition's way of fudging its alleged commitment to end child detention. It's got Bernardos in it, and they give out teddy bears to the kids when they get locked up. It's lovely. So G4S is also now effectively acting as a social landlord. It's been awarded a £230 million contract to accommodate and support people in the West Midlands, and a separate contract up in the North West. And that comes about as a consequence, very much, I want to say, of local authorities abrogating their responsibility towards this group of people as well. Councillor John Lyons, in this very building, said that council properties the tiny proportion of council properties, hard to let properties, which were contractually given over to the UK Border Agency to house and support asylum seekers, should instead be given to what he described as his people, rather than asylum seekers who he described as scumbags and scallywags. And a predictable consequence of contracting out that service, which was previously overseen and provided by a consortium of local authorities, has been a race to the bottom. So in the northwest, there have been reports of families moved into accommodation far too small to meet their needs, or else dirty and poorly equipped. Single-parent households find themselves sharing accommodation with people they don't even know, and often with people they can't even communicate with. It's quite a horrifically frightening situation for some of them. And there's a clear conflict of interest inside of all this anyway. Who are G4S? Are they your landlord? Are they the people who are going to remove you from the country? Or are they the police force? And it's problematic enough them being any one of those things separately, but them being all three of them is horrific. What on earth is going on there? Here in the West Midlands, the transition of accommodation to G4S has been tenuous and halting. So far, they haven't really been able to deliver on the contractual arrangements they've actually got with the UK Border Agency. It's failed to agree commercial terms with the subcontractor it originally described as its preferred provider, which was a company called UPM, United Property Management, and instead it's now entered into a contractual arrangement with another provider. There's a whole kind of maze of subcontracting that goes on. This contractor is called PPNW, which they'd originally described as unsatisfactory and said they wouldn't enter into a relationship with. So people whose very existence in the UK is already quite precarious enough are left in complete uncertainty about if, when and where they're going to need to move house. As people have already said, I think everybody has mentioned, G4S and the other corporations we're talking about aren't looking out to carry out public services because they've got a commitment to public service or to safeguarding the welfare of vulnerable communities. They're providing accommodation to asylum seekers to make money. They operate detention centres to make money. They carry out deportations of those whom the state deems surplus or unwanted to make money. And all of that means that corners are cut to protect profits. And when contracts are formulated on the basis of quotas and key performance indicators, the corporation's interests lie in ensuring that tasks are dispatched regardless of risk to health or well-being. So the death of Jimmy Mubenga and hundreds of documented injuries and allegations of abuse carried out by private contractors carrying out immigration removals. Basically, it wasn't economically viable to stop choking Jimmy Mubenga when he was asking for help. The consequences of this approach are well documented by the UK Border Agency's recent announcement that it had awarded what's effectively a bounty hunter contract to Capita. Under the terms of this contract, Capita is going to help the UK Border Agency to, quote, find and remove more than 150,000 migrants who have allegedly overstayed their visas or are here unlawfully. The government has boasted that Capita will be paid by results. So the more people they remove, the more money they're going to get. Setting aside the well-documented concerns about Capita's track record, the very concept of payment by results in the context of law enforcement should be enough to turn your blood to ice. Capita will be working to data provided to it by the UK Border Agency, which already, everybody knows, was famously described as not fit for purpose. Much of the agency's own data about people's status is completely inaccurate. But when they're passing on inaccurate information to a contracted agency which is given a financial incentive to ensure that removals and deportations are carried out no matter what, the consequences on people's lives can be catastrophic. Particularly, of course, at a time when legal aid budgets are being slashed. There's no one you can go to appeal against what's happening to you. So people wrongly identified by the UK Border Agency as unlawfully present in the UK and then tracked down by a corporation which has got a financial interest in making sure that they're detained and removed, no matter what they're claiming. Quite plainly, people in that situation cannot expect justice. Profit motives, quotas and payment by results can't sit beside questions of justice and due process.